Hey there viewers, and welcome back to the Self-Made Auto Channel. Got the 2013 Dodge Grand Caravan. It drove in, but it's not driving out. The guy drove it in last night before I went home and said if he shuts it off, it's not going to restart. And indeed, he's correct. It does not start, it doesn't crank, but the starter works fine. Kind of hard to understand the fellow, but he had it at another shop. It broke down on him yesterday. He took it to this other shop, and you know, they told him they think it's the TIPM or the computer or something. It's something. But they're able to get it running for him, which I was kind of curious. I'm like, well, is it just the starter circuit? So I left the key in the cut-on position, jumpered the starter relay. Thing cranks like a Banshee. And you know how fast Banshees crank, and it didn't start. It cranks, but it doesn't start. So it's kind of interesting. It doesn't crank with the key. I've got the Altel over here. That's as far as I've gone, so you know what I know now. Starter circuit seems to work, doesn't crank using the dongle. Everything on the dash looks normal. When I drove it in yesterday before I shut it off, everything looked normal. No check engine light, nothing like that. Prindle lights up. You know, you try neutral, you know, all the classic stuff. Everything seems normal. Kind of weird, man. Let's grab the scan tool. It's done scanning. That's interesting. Usually there's a lot more green on here. Only one code in the ORC, which I think is the airbag, so probably nothing that's helpful. Or maybe it is your classic B212D-13 ignition run only input circuit open. That says stored though. That's kind of curious. Not an active code. Let me save that, clear that, see if that code comes back, see if that means anything to us. Yeah, let's do that. So kind of curious. I figured there was going to be more codes. We might have to figure this out the old-fashioned way. So this is kind of bizarre. So I did clear that code. It didn't come back. And I think the reason it has no codes is because everything is there to make it work. So you go into the wireless control module, or, you know, so you can see that data there. You know, does it see the positions, on, off, run, start, accessory? It does. No code stored in it. No reason for inhibit. So the wireless control, or the wireless control module, the TIPM and the ECM both play a role in the cranking of this thing, according to the wiring diagram. I just grabbed a wiring diagram and said, well, what's, you know, who's in charge here? Who they've been talking with? Who they've been dealing with? Looks like a couple of things. You know, if everything's receiving its signals. So I went into the ECM because I think that's the end all say all of, you know, do we turn this starter relay on and crank this engine? And it seems to work. Like where it says ignition start switch, it's off right now. When I turn it on and I put it to the start position, that says on. I hear something click under the hood. It stays, sounds like a relay. It sounds like it stays latched for about 5 seconds, maybe 8 seconds. And then I hear it open, and that status goes from on to off. And you can repeat that cycle. Now I haven't checked it for codes. I did that about 7 or 8 times. And same thing every time. We'll just do another fault scan here to see if anything, I did leave the key on. Just kind of curious if any, you know, codes popped up. Okay, we do have that one that came back. Now I've cycled the key probably 7 or 8 times here. Let's see if it is that same code now. And it is, the 212 Delta. I don't know if that's going to give us a clue. But I think we might look into that briefly before we start rabbit trailing. Like I mentioned in the beginning, you know, I know that the starter circuit and stuff works. Somebody's replaced that relay on the starter, probably as an attempt to, you know, to fix this. Let's look into that 212 code there in the airbag, see if that gives us any clues, or maybe it's just, you know, a byproduct of this, you know, not functioning or fiddling with the key too much, something like that. But it seems to me that everything works. Ta-da! Here we are. Your car doesn't work. Let's see if we can figure this out. All right, 212 Delta 16-13. Here we go. Complete wire diagram. All right, so it does give us a wiring diagram. We have our, I'll show you here. I'll probably look through this relay run start. goes to the restraint controller. All right, like I say, this may be a tad bit of a rabbit trail here, but it also may be helpful to us. Let me see what the theory and operation is on this. The airbag module, we'll just call it the airbag module. It's really called the occupant restraint controller. Airbag module receives power from both a fused run relay output and a fused ignition switch output from the TIPM. These circuits power the airbag module, and the capacitor is used to inflate the squib deployment circuits in the event of a collision detection. When is it monitored? It's monitored in the run and start position. Set condition, here's what we really want to know. If voltage on the run only output circuit drops below 6 volts for 15 seconds, and the run start circuit is above 9 volts, the code will go from active to stored. If basically, I don't want to keep reading, if one of them loses power, sets the code. Possible causes, what do we have? Bunch of stuff, diagnostics tests, whole bunch of stuff there. So that's interesting. I'm kind of curious about these run starts. Why is nobody else complaining about them? I don't know. It's a stored code right now. We know it has the ability to go away. We know we can cycle the key a time or two there before it comes on. This is something I think I'm going to stick right here in my back pocket. I don't know if this car had any issues with the airbag light being on prior, but perhaps there's a couple quick checks we can see. Let's go back to this diagram, maybe if these are fused circuits, and they are. So here's our circuit. There's those two relays, and they both power fuse M16 and fuse M32. So to be curious if we just check those real quick to see if in the TIPM here, if you know, if those two relays are turning on. I don't know the theory behind them. Like I said, I don't want to get too far down it unless that's where we end up going, but might be worth a check just to see. So let's do that. There's a test light here. Oops. Test light's getting where it needs some help. Okay, we need to be able to trust it though. Let's see, relays, so that's going to be in the K's. Run relay is K2. Run start relay is K4, but we don't care about that. We want to know M32 and M16. That's what we came for. Let's see here, M32. This thing's got quite a glare on it here. Let me find this, M32 and M16. We need an M16. That'll take care of this thing, right? So that's kind of weird. It's this thing. What the world? This is one of them ones you pull up and you can't see the fuses and it yanks them both out. Yep. A bunch of dingers went off there. That fell just about as far as it can go. Awesome. Awesome. Way to the bottom inside the fender liner. Okay. That's good. The claw. It's the best I got. Holy crap, dude. Have I not been living right here or something? Make me wonder. No, come on, man. Ta-da! Okay, there we go. Jeez, that was easy, huh? Making progress. All right, can we grab just a couple fuses? Where's our light? Way down in the hole. Let's grab a couple fuses so we can test this like a normal person. All right, now we can act like normal people. All right, we have power on both sides. Let me just make sure something doesn't just all of a sudden work now. But okay, yep, still nothing, no cranky. Okay, that one was dead there while the relay was engaged. Interesting. I don't know if that's the way it's supposed to be. Because when you put the car in the crank position, it stays in this crank position for a period of time. I'm curious if when it's in that crank position, if it will start with a relay bypass. I just bypassed it to make sure it cranked. I don't want to rabbit trail too much here, but I'm gonna. Just because I want to know things. I'm just kind of curious about that. So if I pull their relay out that they put in, I just put this one in place just to make sure the starter side of the circuit was good. And it is. You know, it won't crank, but I wonder if we put it in that crank position. It's in the crank position. We learned something. I don't know what we learned, but we learned something. We learned that when the computer thinks it's supposed to be cranking and we actually do crank it, it does start. So we do know that. We know it has the ability to start and run, which we already knew. Okay. What I did notice, before my brain went that direction, we did notice that during cranking, this one fuse here, which is fuse, can't see too much of a glare there. I don't think it's M16, it's M32. So this upper fuse M32 loses power during the cranking portion. Let's just verify that again. Good thing it has a computer controlled cranker because I'm here by myself. Keys on. I just put it hit it in the crank position. Power there, no power. Power's back. Okay, so number M32. Let's just look on our wiring diagram here. See if that tells us anything. That is the run relay. M32 is the run relay. This is the run start relay. Fuse ignition run controller output. I don't know if that's supposed to be hot during the crank position. We would have to look into that, but at least if we end up coming back there, we know that's the case. And that's that. That's what we know. Okay, well, I'm sure we set a bunch of codes by yanking those fuses out. I'm going to leave that like that for the time being, and we're simply going to trace down what does it take to make this thing crank. I see it has a Reman PCM in it at some point. It's old and crusty, but it's got the old sticker on it. Doesn't look like anything else has been really fiddled with, just at a glance, which is great. The other thing that's great is we do know how to get it started in the event we have to move it out to do our regularly scheduled work for the day. Let me look into some things and I'll be right back. I don't think we need to worry about this because when I looked at a power distribution, that run relay only runs that airbag module. So we're not concerned with that at this point, so we'll quit rabbit trailing there. I got us a diagram for our starter relay. And here's the thing is we know this side of it's good. This is the load side, this yellow with the green here, because that should go to the starter, and it does. It goes to the starter solenoid, which we know is good. So we know that this fuse is good, we know that that's good, we know that that's good. It's this control side that we're having an issue with. And so that's a little tricky. That seems to get its power. It should be getting its power here on 85. Starter control. Now this comes integrated circuit board, part of the TIPM. All right. Trouble in power management, that's what TIPM stands for. And then the other portion here, yep, comes from the PCM, so starter control. I assume this is going to be the ground side. 86, 85 should be a power side. Let's pull the relay out here. Let's get a jumper. Let's verify if we're missing, control from the PCM. Could be dealing with a broken wire here. I would assume that we would set a code. I could be wrong. But let's see what we're missing. Stand by. Chevy Thunder. Okay, so this must be the load side over there. 3087. Right, yeah, that's gotta be our load side. Because this should crank it. Okay, yeah, I'm right. Okay. So we don't seem to have any power over here. These would be the control side. 85, 86. All right. Let me put it, because we know that, we know load side works. And we know that when we put it in the crank position that it latches it for, 5 to 8 seconds. Let me do that real quick and see, do we have power on either one of those? Because that's what we're gonna wanna know. Stand by here, let's see. Keys in the crank position. Oh, we have no power. Okay, well, let's see. Does the PCM have, is the PCM giving it the ground signal? Because that's the other thing we would have to have. So anything that we touch that's ground is gonna light up. Let me go put it in the crank position again. It's in the crank position, we're looking for a ground. Why did that just work? Why did that just work? We just applied power to 85 and that worked, but I didn't see a ground signal there. That's kind of bizarre. Why did that work? If we put power there, that must mean that this one was grounded. Did we not catch that with our test light, or is it so low current it didn't light our test light? Let me put it into crank position again. Okay, we're in the crank position. This one should be a ground. Why is that not lighting up our test light? Oh, there it is. Okay, just that crappy connection. Okay, so that's why we're missing power from the TIPM. That's pretty well cut and dry. Show you again. Let me put it in the crank position again. It's in the crank position. Now we should have a ground from the PCM. I don't know why it's a delay, but we do have a ground there. That's curious. Because technically, if I run a jumper power wire, this car should start and do everything that it's supposed to do. Let's try that theory. We're gonna be, well, I tell you what, let's do it like this. We'll do it through our test light, so we're not real stupid here. Through our test light and through a fuse jumper wire, huh? Double safety. All right, now the car should start and act normal. Shut it back off, back on. Keys back on, okay. Well, that sucks. TIPM's bad. Imagine that. I mean, that's pretty much it. And is that because, somebody installed the wrong relay at some point and, you know, burn that circuit up on the control side. Could be the relay's not just a relay, you know. I mean, this one does show a little diode suppressor in there on the control side, but you know, is it the correct one? Because that's it. We have everything else and nothing that we don't. When we look in scan data, you know, we see this. We see everything receive its signal. We see the TIPM receive its signal to say, hey, turn on, start cranking, bro. TIPM's junk. I don't think there's anything more to check. We have no other codes, no other problems. It's just an internal circuit board malfunction. This is what we're missing, folks. We know we have this ground from the ECM, and you know, we're missing this side here. We're missing this power that is fed from the circuit board. And we know that this ignition run start from the wireless ignition node, we know that's being received up here because we can see it with the scan tool. Dang. What do we have? Fuse battery plus. I'll run down the fuses here, but I think we're wasting our time. I think we're simply looking at another failed TIPM on another Chrysler. Oh, almost fell. I just wanted to give her one last hoorah for you guys so you could see. So this is looking inside the TIPM. We see starter motor running, starter solenoid command. You know, you guys can read, you can see what's going on here. So in the start position, it's telling it to turn on. It thinks the starter motor's running, and eventually there it'll kick off. And there it is. This is it, folks. It needs a TIPM. Y'all see what's about to go down here. It's called the Russian relay. You solder a wire on the missing power side. You bend it out, of course. A little bit of heat shrink over there. We'll stick it in. We're gonna stick it to an alternative power source. I gotta get this guy on the road. He has a threat of losing his job. It's his only vehicle. Obviously, we're going to fix it right, or recommend fixing it right, but I can't just leave this vehicle impaired because of something so stupid. Is this proper? No. Is it going to get it going? Yeah. There's a problem on the printed circuit board, but like I say, we just solder a wire on the control side for the missing power. We'll probably come over here to the accessory power. I'll use a fuse tap, which is, you know, super scumbaggish thing to do. This guy needs to get to work, and there's way more to this story than what I'm letting you guys know about, but we'll leave it at that. And you know, we're getting this guy out of a pickle. We'll be able to quote this out, find a used one, something. In the meantime, though, he can drive his vehicle. If it was mine, I'd do this, and I'd probably never fix it. But, you know, stand by. I'm not proud to say that I have these in my shop. I don't know why, but I remembered that I had some, and they happen to be for a mini fuse. So this is a fuse tap. Don't really like these things. I do have some that I saved from yanking out of people's cars. You know, when this kind of crap comes in. Let's see here. I need to figure out. So that's full timer. I'm curious if this is the part-time side here. That's key off. Okay, so key off, so must be this is the part-time side. Oh, maybe it's because it's in accessory mode. Let me open and close the door here. Okay, yep, so this is the part-time side. Okay, so let's see what we need to know, because that would be best. Got a pair of side cutters. Here's a great tool. What I want to know, so what I'm doing here, this fuse that I just pulled out, that I put right here, is the fuse that runs the power outlets. This center pin here is the power outlet side, we'll say. And then you can move the fuse over here so it connects this wire and this wire, the center one and this one, for a full-time hot. Always hot no matter what. Just like my wife. And then this side is the accessory side. And so when we turn the key on, that should become hot. And it does it stay hot and crank though is what we want to know. And it does not. So that will be of no use for us. We will need to go to the full-time side. I don't know if that's going to conflict and cause other issues. We'll find out. Issues it could cause is, well, parasitic drain. We want to put this on the correct side because we want this to be fuse protected still. Gosh, I hate using these things. I don't want to destroy this in case we send it out and get it fixed. It's really not that much wider, but I'm going to trim. Hi, kitty. How you doing, kissy cat? I'm going to trim a little piece off this. I just don't want to unnecessarily spread the terminals in the box. That's what these things do. There, I trimmed that off so it's just going to fit beside the fuse only on one side, and still has just enough to catch there to pull it down into the box, hopefully. We'll trim a little more if we have to. Up. There we go. Oh, I see it hits on the edge of the box over here. Okay, I just didn't want to go forcing it. It's hitting on just the edge of the box. I'm going to have to tweak the fuse a bit. Let me grab a pair of pliers. Just a minute. Just a minute. So this side is fuse protected at 20 amps. It's probably about a quarter amp. That's all we need. Look at this. Wow. This is the kind of stuff I see that comes into my shop. Look at us go. All right, that pushed down in all. Oops. Whoa, dude. Got a little carried away there. I bent the tab. Wow, some grade A dirtbag stuff right there. Stand by. Should crank now. This is what it is, folks. It's about the best I can do. I don't know. What are you gonna do? We need to, like I say, we need to get the guy on the road. I'm not going to go into depth about his story or anything like that, but at the end of the day, he needs to get to work. This will get him to work. I'll see about getting this box ordered, figure out what we have to do there, and that's that. So these are pretty easy to do. You put them in, you do a configuration restore or parameter reset, whatever Chrysler calls it, network configuration data something. You can put in a used one, providing it's only been in one other vehicle. You can write the VIN number to these twice without having to have them reset, re-virginized, whatever you want to call it. I think Perkins there at L1 Auto Diagnostics, he can do these, and I think he can do them remotely through my scan tool with his program or through our J-Box. So if we do get a used one that has more than 2 VINs in it, I think he can help me out. So that's it. We helped this guy out. Let's get back to regular work now. So that's it, folks. Hopefully this made sense to you. I know this might have been a little off in the weeds with some parts of the diag. But at the end of the day, that's it. Just trust your data, trust what you see, but never trust your scan tool and never trust service data. And never trust anyone on YouTube. So don't trust anyone, but trust some things. Gather the information. You know, the big clue is no codes. Probably if we talk to them, it's been having this airbag problem. you know, I'm going to assume, but yeah, don't get off in the weeds with that either, because that seems to be working here. You know, maybe there's some wiring issue going to the airbag module. I don't know. That's for a different time. But in this case, it's like, what does it take to make it crank? That's what we want to know, and that's what we looked up. Who are the key players? You know, obviously the, you know, central gateway or the TIPM, the WIN module, the wireless ignition node, the engine control module. And this is an old simple system, simple, you know. But, you know, cars are that stupid. You know, we have to have, you know, a host of computers that say, you know, whether or not your engine can crank. You know, it's not just a relay and a fuse and a switch, because that was too easy. And there, you know, of course, no security and I don't know, all that stuff, whatever. But, you know, that's what we look at and follow the facts. Is everything receiving its signal? It is, okay. You know, it should be cranking. That's why we have no codes, because nothing looks wrong. Apparently, it doesn't monitor that side of that relay, which I'm kind of surprised, because you'd think we would have a, you know, a crank relay open circuit code or something. But even, you know, pulling the relay out, putting it in, that kind of stuff, bypassing, never tripped any kind of codes for it. So perhaps that's not programmed into it, but that would have been a huge clue for us if it had a code for the cranking relay, for the starting relay. You know, circuit low is what I would imagine would have read, because there was no power there. You know, it didn't see power on the control side to the PCM. So I'm really shocked to see that the PCM does not set a code against it, saying like, hey, you know, this control side, we're turning it on, but prior to turning it on, we're not seeing the 12 volts coming through that control side of the relay. So most relays, modern cars, will set codes against that kind of stuff. Apparently not these. And then we also noticed, looking at the wiring diagram, that power that's missing, you know, we determined it was missing its power, you know, comes from a circuit board inside the TIPM. So there's really nothing we can do there, nothing more we can check. Power feed to it's good, and that's it. You guys be good. Comment section, Insta, Facebook. Let me know what you think about my Russian repair. I know Ivan would be proud of me, and he better comment if he watches this video. Just tell me how proud he is of me. We're gonna fix it the right way though. And just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.